everyone, this is Matt here. I'm here with Ron for another edition of Ask Ron. How are you doing today, Ron?
I'm very good, man. Weather's beautiful here. Snowbirds, eat your heart out.
Yes, yeah, I think it's a little bit nippy down here.
Nippy. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, no, it's in the 60s, low 60s, high 50s.
That's perfect.
Yeah, you see me, I have my jacket on. All right, let's get started here. The first question we have today is from Fernando in Connecticut. Fernando says, do you send a yellow letter to probate prospects?
I haven't in quite a while. A lot of students do. Just make sure you get a good list. You probably ought to get aware of my new Ron's Deal Finder. We're going to be talking about it a lot, especially in the upcoming events. And you can pull your own probate list. In fact, you can pull any list you want right off of it, and it'll actually even do the mailing for you. So before you do any mailing, check with our office. And it's called Ron's Deal Finder. It's brand spanking new, and you're going to absolutely love it. Saves you a bunch of money too on the mailing.
Even better. All right.
Do you know how they can get information on that right now?
I don't know right now because I know it's brand new, but whenever that is available, I'll make sure to add that in the response for Fernando.
Email and ask us how do we get information on your new Deal Finder.
There we go. All right. Fernando has two more questions. The next one being, do we change the message when sending to the heirs?
Heirs?
The heirs.
Yes. You got to know who you're mailing to. If you're mailing to the heirs, then you know there really should be something in there where you know they know they're the heirs. And of course, if you're mailing to the attorney, then obviously it's a different letter. So I probably would have a letter structured for probate more so than the yellow letter, because I will tell you, if you mail to the homeowner directly, sometimes the heirs get a little bit upset.
Gotcha. So a little bit of a custom message to them then.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Fernando's final question is, I'm buying a property with seller financing and paying $5,000 to the wholesaler that brought me the deal. Are we seeing in this market to pay wholesaler out of the sale proceeds as a consultant fee? And do you recommend a line satisfaction instead?
I'm not sure what he's asking there, but just so we're clear, we never pay anybody for a wholesale deal until it's at closing. Don't ever write them a check in advance. You don't ever know if it's going to get to closing. And then they can call it whatever they want. They can call it an option fee or a wholesaling fee or whatever they want on the closing statement, except they probably are not going to want to call it commission.
Got you. All right. That was it for Fernando. The next question we have is from Katrina in Nevada. Katrina says, I live in a trust deed state. Once the standard purchase and sales agreement has been signed, what documents are prepared by the real estate closing attorney? I will be using an AITD, all-inclusive trust deed. The
answer is all of them. The closing attorney will prepare whatever documents need, including the AITD agreement and all the other disclaimers and disclosures and whatever. And you should get them a copy of your, we call it the seller's acknowledgement letter on the Gold Club site. It's a CYA letter. He needs to keep that in his file and use that every time that you do a deal through him. And also make sure there's an authorization to release sign. So if you didn't get it signed, let him get it signed. So if anybody wants to communicate with the bank, it gives them permission to do so.
Nice. All right, moving on to the next one on the list. We have Evengii from Nevada. Now this question Evengii asked last time. He wanted a little bit more clarification on it. So here it is one more time, Ron. The typical seller has a mortgage and equity and they insist on the interest. One of the ways Ron suggests is to wrap where the first or second mortgage goes into paragraph 2B of the PNS agreement. It seems this would describe the full note, wrapping the lender and seller portions. If there's an interest number specified, It would then appear that the interest applies to the whole wrap, while the negotiated interest should only apply to the seller.
Oh, that's not what I taught you to do, girl. It's not what I taught you to do. Yes, you put the word wrap where it says where you would put first or wrap. But after that, in the interest blank, you just leave it blank or put TD, to be determined, TBD. But then you need that line, and I know I'm sure I said it the last time, it must say that the principal, the amount of principal and interest on the wrap will equal the amount of principal and interest on the underlying loan. That means you're only paying the amount on the underlying loan and you're not paying interest on that difference like you're describing.
Okay, so then
Paragraph
that would be
18.
the way. That would be the way to outline that in the
Yeah.
PNS contract then.
Yeah.
Got it. So the second part of this question, if I put only the seller portion in as a second in 2B, then how would I specify that the first mortgage is
No.
wrapped?
Stop. When you're doing a wraparound purchase and sale agreement, nowhere on that agreement does it show what the seller owes. It's totally irrelevant to you anyway. You only care what you owe the seller. So you don't put the amount they owe anywhere on the agreement, and that's what's confusing you.
Okay, got it. I think that might clear it up for him.
It's understandable situation. And of course, I never did anything like that, or I never made that kind of a mistake, but you know, I can see why people would. That was a joke, by the way. If there is one, I made it.
All right. The next one we have here is from Kelz Jones in North Carolina.
Okay.
Kelz says, I live in North Carolina. How can I find out if the state requires to do land trust when doing owner finance contracts?
Okay, no state requires to do a land trust. I can tell you that right now. Some states don't even have a statute on land trust. Therefore, some attorneys believe they're not working in their state. Not true. But the state doesn't have anything to say, good, bad, or anything about a land trust. You can use a land trust in all 50 states. Some you're going to have more trouble explaining it to attorneys than others. But frankly, by and large, it's commonly used across the United States. And if you've got a real estate closing attorney and they don't understand what a grantor revocable trust is, they're really not a real estate closing attorney. I can tell you that right now. They just close a few real estate deals.
Nice. All right. The next one we have is from Reynald in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Reynald says, my wife and I live in Florida, and we each have a checking account in our own personal names. I seem to remember you mentioning a way to have a husband and wife name on a joint checking account, and that would prevent predators or creditors to cease the checking account if one of the spouses has a judgment against him or her.
That's correct. That would be a tenants by the entirety, not joint, two different deals. Tenants by the entirety. Now, some banks won't even let you set it up and call it tenants by the entirety, but ask them, and because I'd like to see it right on their records that it's tenants by the entirety. But if that's not going to happen, I'd make sure they put tenants by the entirety right on the check. In other words, I'd like to have something in the setup documents to disclose that it was tenants by the entirety, but I'm telling you, some banks just won't do it because legal issues on them, but they'll all tell you that we treat it like tenants by the entirety if the account is in both yours and your wife's name. Just the same, I want all the evidence I can get that that was the intent. And that's what it's going to come down to.
It's definitely good to know.
Now, if you have an account and your wife have an account, okay, you need to go do a whole new account, and this money needs to go in there jointly, because one of the requirements of tenants by the entirety is that you must own the asset from the inception together. One can't give part of it to the other later.
Got it. Okay. All right. Moving on, we only have a few more. The next one is from Phil from Ohio. Phil says, Ron, you have advised against title insurance because assuming we purchase with nothing down, we have no investment to protect. However, what about protecting our existing profit in the house? More specifically, we are legally obligated to give the tenant buyer clear title when he exercises his option to purchase. Aren't we safer to have title insurance to ensure we can pass good title to the tenant buyer or even another seller?
Well, I hope you're not forgetting the part about where we had the title searched now before we put the tenant buyer in it. But there is somewhat of a risk there, I guess. Something could happen to the title between the time you buy it and the time you sell it. But on the other hand, the title will be in your entity. So I'm not sure what that would be. But if you feel more comfortable giving hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars to title companies and that makes you sleep better at night, go ahead and do it. It's your business decision. You know, I did it a few dozen or more times before came to the conclusion that it's a waste of money, but you just gotta have to draw your own conclusion. I promise you this, any attorney or any title company will ask you and beg you to put title insurance on them, and there's a good reason. They get paid. The attorney gets half the premium. That's why they want you to do it. And it's common. I'll grant you it's common, but don't forget, it's not common to buy properties with no money invested in them and have nothing at risk. But it is true, if you take some money from the tenant buyer, then you've got to be able to deliver them clear title. But in my opinion, you got clear title the day you bought it or you wouldn't have bought it. So if the title's not clear, you screwed it up.
That's a good point. All right, Phil has another question. He says, Ron, you have said if the due on sale clause is enforced, which I agree is unlikely, we're protected because of the CYA document signed by the seller. However, what about our obligation to sell the house to the tenant buyer for the agreed price in the lease? Even if we're not obligated to pay off the mortgage, what about our legal commitment to retain the house in order to sell to the tenant buyer down the road?
Would you translate that for me? What the heck is he asking?
He's asking, he wants to make sure he's covered
For what?
basically, and doesn't fall back on him. So he
Okay.
wants to ensure that CYA document is going to protect him.
All right, the CYA document clearly discloses to the seller that there's a bank's got a due on sale clause loan. If they call it due, you're not going to be liable. There's another CYA document in there for a tenant buyer to sign on the other side. It's right in my course. If you got my course, if you don't, you should be getting my course. So both of those are CYA letters. Now remember, it protects you against the seller coming after you, protects you against the buyer coming after you. It has nothing to do with the bank, but the bank's not coming after you anyway because you don't own the property. Your name's nowhere on anything, including the credit report or anywhere on any documents. So I'm not sure what you're worried about, but even without those two documents, if you buy the property and you sell the property, and the bank creates a problem, you're going to do what you can to get it fixed anyway. And there's all kinds of ways to do that. I'm not going to go into all of them here, but obviously the easiest way is to see if we can't get with the bank and get the buyer financed and get them cashed out now. And trust me, they'd much rather do that than create a problem about the due on sale clause.
If I think he agrees, I think that he just wants to make sure, which I don't blame him.
Nope.
All right, it's the last question we have for you, Ron. This one's from Tracy, and she's in South Carolina.
Okay.
All right, Tracy says, someone had asked Ted Thomas in the virtual summit if we can do lease option as we do it, as taught in the Gold Club, with line certs and tax deeds. The short answer was yes, but I want to clarify/verify. Wouldn't we still need to get a contract with the owner? Same question for both the line certs and tax deeds, since they have a right of redemption time, or in the case of the tax deed, wouldn't that have immediate ownership to do what we want, including lease option once we have the deed? Or had we better wait until the redemption period is over?
No way. And in fact, the word lease option and tax deed should not be married together because you got big problems. Now, it depends on the interpretation of your question, frankly. Okay. If I buy the property on a tax deed sale, I can do whatever darn well please with it. I own it, which will include lease options. If I'm buying the property from in a state where the owner has a redemption period, I do not own the property yet, and neither does the owner. They got to redeem it first. There's no way I can put a tenant buyer in that house. If I'm just getting a contract with the owner before it goes to the tax deed sale, if I buy it, I better darn sure pay the taxes. Cannot put a tenant buyer in a house when the thing is about to go to a tax deed sale, because I'll lose the house and then you will be in a mess with the tenant buyer. So if that didn't answer your question somewhere in those three answers, resubmit it in plain English and I'll try it again, but I want to be concise on exactly what your question is. read it back to yourself a couple of times and see if you'd understand it if you weren't writing it.
I think you did cover that one. Her main
No.
concern was that redemption period, but if she has any additional questions, I'm sure we'll hear from her next week.
Yeah.
All right, Ron, I think that was it for today.
Okay. All right. Well, good questions, folks. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. Keep your eyes peeled to our schedule as well. We got a lot of cool events coming up. By the way, don't forget February 10th and 11th now. Better get registered for my new terms because it's the only time you're ever going to be able to see it, and you're only going to be able to see it free because I'm re-recording it and I'm bringing that course up to date. It's 5 years old, so I'm bringing it up to date. And I'm telling you, I got hours and hours and hours and hours in that course. In fact, look here, I got the manual right here on my desk that I got to go through again and then again and then again until I get the thing right. I've had a lot
How big that thing is.
yeah, it's a lot of work. So anyway, it's free, but when you register now, you'll be asked if you want to upgrade to the $897 price that people are paying for the term course now, and then you'll actually get the manual and you'll get the $100 certificate to upgrade to boot camp when you're ready, and you'll get $100. You'll get a chance to get a $1,000 check from us if you do your first deal within 90 days of getting the terms course, which is what you're doing. Plus, you're going to get that manual. That's going to be important that you have that. I'm going to put the manual up on the screen, but you're not going to be able to copy it. You're not going to be able to use it after the event, and that would bother me because this manual is going to be worth its weight in gold to you. So it comes with the $897 upgrade as well, and we get you the link. It'll be ready by the time I do this. We get you the link and you get the manual right away. So, a lot of good reasons for you to upgrade. You don't have to. You can listen in free, but I don't know how much that's going to do you if you don't get the tools to work with after the 2-day seminar is over. It'll be the last time I'll do it, so not get a chance to do that. So go register for it. All right. Anything else, Matt?
No, I think that's it, Ron.
Okay. See you guys next week.
All right.